Imagine having a 10-speed bike, your personal drive, your work ethic, your dedication. That's the engine. Your leadership ability is your gear system. So you can pedal as hard as you want, but if your leadership is stuck in first gear, you're not going very far. And you can max out your effort and still be limited by your leadership ability. What if I told you there's a lid on everything you'll ever accomplish as a leader? Not because the market isn't there, not because your team isn't talented, not because your timing is off, but because of you. That's where we're starting today with the most uncomfortable law in leadership, and that's the law of the lid. Welcome to Abacus Trust Talks. I'm Tony Patino. This is episode 1 of a 13-episode series where I'll be walking everyone through John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Maxwell is one of the most respected voices in leadership development in the world. He's been decades studying, teaching, and practicing what makes leaders effective and what holds them back. These aren't theories, they're laws. Laws work whether or not you believe in them. And over the next 13 episodes, we're going to break them all down, illustrate them with real stories, and challenge you to apply them. So if you're a leader or you aspire to be one, this series is for you. Starting in a couple of weeks in law number 6, I'll be bringing in different leaders from the organization. We'll have some conversation, some real voices, some real experiences, and real growth. But we're starting here with this law, with the law of lid. But until you understand this law, the rest of them are just tactics. Okay, so law number 1, the law of the lid. Leadership ability determines a person's level of effectiveness. Here's another way Maxwell says it. The lower your leadership ability is, the lower the lid on your potential. The higher your leadership ability is, the higher the ceiling on everything you can achieve and everything your organization or your department can achieve with you. Think of it this way. Imagine having a 10-speed bike, your personal drive, your work ethic, your dedication. That's the engine. Your leadership ability is your gear system. So you can pedal as hard as you want, but if your leadership is stuck in first gear, you're not going very far. And you can max out your effort and still be limited by your leadership ability. So that's your leadership lid. So Maxwell says if your leadership is a 6 out of 10, your effectiveness will never exceed 5. The lid sits one notch below your leadership level because leadership is what enables or constrains everything else. Now, here's the good news. Here's what's exciting about this law is it's not fixed, right? So you can raise it. Leadership is learnable. It's something you can develop. It's not a gift you're born with or denied. I think but you have to be honest first. You have to look at yourself, at your leadership honestly and ask, where is my lid right now? Because if you can't see the lid, you can't lift the lid. The painful truth is that most people don't reach their full potential because they never honestly assess their leadership ceiling. So kind of walk you through a story in the book to illustrate the law of the lid. He talks about McDonald's. Maxwell's one of the most powerful, and this is probably one of the more powerful stories you'll ever come across. And it happens. It's not about Ray Kroc's McDonald's. It's the original one, the one that was ran by two brothers, Dick and Mac McDonald in San Bernardino, California. In 1948, Dick and Mac had cracked the code on fast food. I mean, they had streamlined their kitchen. They had 8 items on the menu, 15-cent hamburgers. Lines were wrapped around the block. So they genuinely had a great business. So here comes Ray Kroc, right? So he's a milkshake machine salesperson that happens to visit their location, sees what they've built, and immediately sees what they cannot see, a global empire waiting to happen. So he approaches them about franchising. And of course, they said, hey, we've already tried this. It doesn't work. We're not really interested in that kind of growth. We're super comfortable. We've got these lines around the building. We're super successful in this operating the way we are. So Kroc doesn't have their food. He doesn't have their system, but he has one thing that they don't have, and that's a higher leadership lid. So he has a vision for scale, a capacity for organizational complexity, and a drive to build something beyond himself. So he gets with the McDonald's and he licenses their name. He builds the franchise system that today McDonald's uses and has over 40,000 locations across the world and more than 100 countries. And now they do over $20 billion a year. So Dick and Mac McDonald's name, while their name is on every golden arch, their idea made Ray Kroc one of the most successful entrepreneurs in U.S. history, and they made $2.7 million on the deal. So the same food, the same concept, completely different outcomes because of one person's leadership lid. So I'm going to slow down a little bit here, and I think this is the part most leaders get leadership content skips. So it's easy to hear the McDonald's story and think about someone else, a colleague, a former boss or current boss, a competitor, someone else whose lid is lower than yours. So, but Maxwell's challenge to us isn't about other people's lid, it's about your own. So I've got a few questions for you. I got 3 questions. So number 1, what is your current leadership lid? Not what you hope it is, what the evidence suggests it is. How large is the team that you can effectively lead? How complex is the challenge that you can effectively navigate? How far does your vision actually reach? Question number 2, where is the lid showing up in your department or within the organization right now? So every bottleneck, every plateau, we've tried to do this and it didn't work, or trace it back. Take it back. Somewhere there's a leadership ceiling. Somewhere, we hit we were only as high, we could only go as high as that particular leader allowed us, let us to. So think about that. Question number 3, what are you doing deliberately, consistently to raise your own lid? And I mean this, like, what are you doing intentional? Are you investing in your own leadership development with the same intensity that you invest in driving your particular department, or the performance of your team? So are you putting that same level of intensity in your own development? The law of the lid is not a judgment. It's an invitation. It's Maxwell saying the single highest return of investment that you can make is in your own leadership capacity. Every 10th of a point that you can raise your leadership lid, you're going to raise the ceiling of your entire department and ultimately the organization. Your team, your culture, your results, they all go up with you. So that's why this is law number 1. But because before the law of influence, or before the law of process, or before the law of respect, you have to know what your leadership capacity, you have to know that your leadership capacity is the great multiplier on everything else. So it's like a magnifying glass. Okay. So here's our challenge this week. I just have one thing. I'm going to challenge each of you to find 20 minutes where there's no phone, there's no interruptions. And I want you to honestly answer this question. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is my current leadership lid? And what is that one thing holding it at that number? Just one thing. You don't need a list to yourself. You just need that one thing. You don't need a development plan. You just need an honest answer. Write it down, because awareness is where growth starts. You cannot raise your lid if you won't acknowledge it. Your leadership ceiling is not your destiny, it's your current altitude. And altitude is adjustable. All right. So that takes us through episode 1 of leadership's ability is the lid on your effectiveness. And the best news is that leadership development, that lid can always go higher. So in episode 2, we're going to move into law number 2 and law number 3. So we'll ask, once you know your lid, how do you actually lead? What does influence look like? And why does Maxwell say that leadership is never a destination? It's a daily discipline. So if you find this useful, please share it. Please share it with somebody that's important to you in your life, or someone that's trying to grow their leadership ability. And that investment costs you nothing, and it might change everything for that one person. All right. So I'm Tony Patino. Keep growing, keep leading, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.